Well, hello, everybody. Welcome once again to This Is My Story. Lee Michaels here, Reverend Michaels, for those who want to hit the official handle, but Lee is fine also. And we're so grateful to have another opportunity to share with you a wonderful guest who's got quite a story. He's a dear friend. I've known him for, in fact, we were just chatting offline about how long. I met his brother before I met him, do I think. But anyhow, he'll fill us in and with the details. His name is Kendall Duffy. And this brother, he radio promotions, a vegan entrepreneur, and deep sea diver and trainer. Very rarely do you see all of those in one package, and he's with us today. Kendall, so good to have you, my friend. How are you, my brother?
I'm great, Pastor Lee. So good to see you, man.
Yes, indeed. Good to see you, man. I hope all is well with the family. How's the family, your brother, Clyde, and your sister?
Everyone's good. Michelle and Clyde. It's funny, you were right, because Clyde started in the music business officially maybe a year or two before, about a year or two or so before I did. So he met pretty much everyone at radio.
Yeah, I met him at Verity.
Yeah, he was at Verity. So he met everyone, all the program directors, about a year or two before me. And then he was very instrumental in introducing me to all the players like yourself. And our own relationships. Yep.
So which we're going to get back to how you and I met officially.
Absolutely.
But to launch this show today, share your story. Tell us about Clyde McDuffie. Tell us those things about Clyde along the way. How you got to where you are today.
Right. Well, so I'm Kendall. My twin brother is Clyde.
I said Clyde. You know what I mean.
It's okay. Yeah. We're twins. So, but I'm Kendall Duffy. I am a longtime record industry executive. I've worked for several major labels, including Light Records, Compendium Music Group, and then worked independently for a number of artists along these last 20 or 25 years. I come from a music industry family. So myself, my twin brother, as you mentioned, Clyde Duffy, whose first name is actually Kelvis. So it's Kelvis Clyde Duffy. Clyde is his middle name. And then my sister Michelle, who was the general manager for Pure Springs, which is CeCe Winans' label. So the three of us have all been involved in the music industry for over 25 years. And then over the last, I'd say 15 plus years, we have started our own company called D3 Entertainment Group, which stands for Duffy 3, and primarily have been active marketing and promoting major films for the last 15 to 20 years, from all the faith-based films from the Kendrick brothers, Devon Franklin, Tyler Perry.
You did the Shack, didn't you do this? Because you had us come.
The Shack, yes.
That's right. We went to.
It was amazing.
I think it was DC. We had the premiere.
Yeah, The Shack was an amazing movie. About just the enormity of who God is and how he can be what we need him to be. If you don't know that story, please Google the story, watch the trailer. There's a book as well. Absolutely powerful. That was probably one of the more powerful movies that we've been involved with doing campaigns for, that I personally just kind of gravitated towards.
I just did another movie, early part of the year, The Forge.
So that was our movie as well.
It had the same kind of impact.
Yeah, I was there with you for The Forge a year or two ago. That was our movie as well.
So inquisitive minds want to know. Okay, we met. Well, you might as well go there. How did we meet?
So again, I just came into the industry around 2001. As I mentioned, my twin brother had introduced me to all the players at radio, the program directors, the gatekeepers. And so I was heading to, I don't know if it was GMWA or some big event that was
that might have been
Baltimore. And I was working with Bishop Paul Morton, and his wife, Pastor Deborah Morton, had a project called Women of Excellence.
Oh my God!
I reached out to you. And secured your services to do a live remote. So,
I remember.
And you were so happy that I was kind of supporting the station that way. And so we did a live remote, we did a contract. You came out, I believe it was.
We sat right out in the lobby, right into the ballroom, going into the ballroom.
And again, it was Pastor Deborah Morton's project, Women of Excellence. And because I had just signed Bishop Morton to Light Records at the time, because I was director of A&R and director of promotions for the label for Light Records. And we had talked, you and I had talked on the phone, and then when I came, you came out, did the live remote, and we met in person. And ever since then, we became boys.
We sharpen that. Now I remember.
Yeah.
And that was not GMWA. That was before Bishop Paul Morton stepped away from the conference that he started, the church conference.
Full gospel.
Full gospel.
Yes, you're right.
And we were right outside the ballroom. I never forget.
That's correct.
Because also one of the conversations that was one of the first events after the announcement that then Reverend Sam Williams out of New York was going to be bishop.
That's right.
Yeah, man, I remember that.
That's how we met. It was
amazing, man. I forgot all of. As soon as you started saying it, though, it came right back to me.
2001, Bishop Morton and Pastor Deborah Morton, and yeah, you did a live remote for us, and that's where it all started.
That's where it kicked off, and we've had some wonderful relational encounters professionally with wonderful artists that you had that have come.
Shantae Moore is one.
Who's that again?
She has a big record. Shantae Moore.
Shantae Moore, you smile about that. I understand.
Well, I smile about that for a number of reasons, but and I think but we had a record called "Jesus, I Love You."
Yes, that was it.
Really blown up, and you were one of the earliest supporters on that record.
Yeah.
And brought her in, but I have brought over the years numerous artists into. And
a shameless plug. We actually did, after the radio interview, we did a video interview because I had my local TV show.
Yes.
And that interview still lives. That interview with Shantae still lives on my my YouTube channel, so you can go check it out.
I remember it was in the Coca-Cola Lounge, I think it was called.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
Which eventually became the Unplugged Praise Studio.
I remember that as well. We got history, brother.
So, but here, matter of fact, that's a great transition. It was during one of the occasions where I extended an invitation to you to bring an artist for Unplugged Praise, but I don't even remember who the artist was.
Titus Showers.
Who was it?
Titus Showers.
Titus Showers. That's right. Titus out of Louisiana.
That's correct.
And Titus came, and in the course of that event, you mentioned to me about this shift that was going on in your personal life, that you had become a vegan, and you were talking about a vegan restaurant that you had gone to here in Baltimore at the time, and I didn't know anything about it. And he was talking about the burgers and all, and he made it so good, folks. I had to go find the place and try it out, and he was right, man. But how did you decide to make the switch to becoming a vegan?
So about 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with high cholesterol, and my doctor informed me that cholesterol only enters our bodies through animals or animal byproducts, which was unbeknownst to me. So I researched that and was like, wow, how come other medical professionals aren't forthcoming with that information? And so
because they want to sell medicine.
Of course, that's the obvious answer. And so I started researching information, and one of the first things that I discovered was that there's over 80,000 edible plants and flowers in the world, and most of us eat the same dead 3 animals over and over: cows, pigs, and chicken. So my mother was a chef cook, so I grew up working around her, working as a chef, and so I knew how to cook. So when my doctor told me I had the choice of either going vegan or getting on prescription medications, it was an easy answer.
Wow.
I can't throw away all my stuff.
Arguably the biggest decision and best decision you ever made in your life.
Absolutely. And so I literally, through trial and error, started coming up with just experimenting. I would go to the Asian markets, international markets, and which I'd never been to before. Started finding things. I would Google what the texture of these different plants and flowers were. And I started experimenting. I would invite Clyde and Michelle and other friends over, and they would be surprised. And they were like, wait a minute, this isn't fish, or this isn't,
that's the part let's stop right there. Because when you said that, I was like, yeah, right. You said there are plants that in the right combinations when they're prepared will taste just like chicken, will taste just like fish, and you won't know the difference. And I'm like, yeah, right. But when I went to the place that you sent me to, I got this big old sloppy cheeseburger that had vegan cheese, which meant no dairy product.
Correct.
And the burgers, I don't know what they were made out of, but when I got finished
protein or something like that.
Man, when I got finished eating that thing, I was sold.
Let me ask you context.
Fish, but I still go vegan.
Let me ask you hybrid.
Yeah, I'm a hybrid.
About the fish. First of all, we serve a vegan fish sandwich made from palm trees, and the reason why palm trees. And the reason why our sandwich is so important to me, first of all, it's our biggest seller, but secondly, it's my way of combating the problem of overfishing. Overfishing is when commercial fishermen take way more fish out of the ocean that they're legally allowed to take.
It messes up the ecosystem.
It completely destroys the ecosystem. It kills the coral reefs, which I have a strong heart for, which we're going to talk about that later. But I do want to add some context to what you said about different plants being able to taste like meat. So listen to this. This is very interesting. Any animal that we look at, from a chicken, a cow, animals don't have a natural taste. And I said it because if you were to go to a cow and cut a piece of it off and take a bite,
it wouldn't taste good.
It tastes horrible, right?
Yeah, right.
But until we do a certain process to that cow or that chicken or that pig, then it becomes, in our mind, what we associate with sausage, with hamburger meat, with steak, with bacon, etc. Well, so with that in mind, if we can take a plant that has a similar texture and do the exact same thing, the exact same process, the exact same spices, it too will taste like what our mind says is sausage or chicken or a burger, because that's not that animal, that's how it's processed.
But you're still satisfying the expectation of that taste.
And then some.
The wise in Mayana. Yeah, me good, yeah. Any man will walk must to chop. Cover me.
Discover the secret to radiant skin with Pure Life Butter. Crafted from the finest all-natural and organic ingredients, our shea butter-based products nourish and hydrate your skin like never before. Whether you're looking for deep moisturizing or soothing pain relief, or maybe a touch of luxury, Pure Life Butter has the perfect solution just for you. Embrace the purity of nature. Experience the transformation. Pure Life Butter, because you and your skin deserves the best. And then some, man. Well, you hit a gold mine there because you got me on it. And the only regret I have, I still eat fish and I still eat chicken. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a hybrid, but I do eat vegan. But the biggest frustration, and I think you can appreciate this because this kind of lends itself to the next part I wanted to go to, is having the available venues that serve the products.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to this next point. So when I started experimenting with all these different plants and coming up with this food, an idea was born, Pastor Lee, and that idea was to come up with my own vegan food brand, which is called Deep Sea Vegan. And so we are now in the process of resurrecting a building that we purchased. When I say we, I'm referring to my twin brother, Clyde, and my sister, Michelle. We purchased a commercial building. One half of the building is finished. It's sweet salon. So we have 13 sweet salons, barbers, beauticians, massage therapists, etc. The other side of the building, we are now working to create that into a food hall, which will encompass 4 different restaurants, including Deep Sea Vegan. So my health problem birthed a business. And so it's called Deep Sea Vegan because I'm a certified dive master and a vegan chef. And so, as you just said, accessibility is a problem. It's a problem for me, and I'm vegan. I travel a lot, so I understand that. So our plan is to have this building, which is called M6, which is in honor of my mother. Her name was Maydeen, and she has 6 children. So the building is called M6 in her legacy. So each M6 building will have sweet salons on one side, a food hall on the other side, anchored by Deep Sea Vegan. And our goal is to have this accessible and available around the United States and worldwide eventually.
You're not talking about just one isolated location.
Absolutely
You're talking
we serve an awesome and amazing God. We're going to do awesome and amazing things.
Man, I'm with you on that. I might even want to talk to you about investing in that. Hey, I feel that. But look, man, that's great. So birth out of a personal health challenge,
yes, sir,
was the vision of a new entrepreneurial opportunity.
Absolutely. Which is why, we have to understand that oftentimes things that we as humans look at as a challenge or maybe even a disappointment, oftentimes we have to sit back and rest in knowing God has something better for us. Yeah. And even though we're just talking about food, sometimes things like that can really be a challenge. Because I didn't think I wanted to go vegan. You know what I mean? Like I thought about it, like in terms of eating healthier, but now to be forced to either do that or get a medication.
Well, yeah, you were given an incentive.
Yes, absolutely.
Either do that or do this. Yeah,
right. And I chose the one that was more adaptable for me, which is I'm a chef. I can cook. I can figure it out. And in doing so, it's created a huge opportunity for my family and I with Deep Sea Vegan.
Now, the preacher in me, I'm chuckling because, isn't that just what God does? Sometimes He allows the troubling of the water to get our attention, to make us make a choice about certain things that we're doing. I remember my mom, she used to smoke cigarettes, and I dabbled with cigarettes for a minute when I was in my teen year because it was a peer pressure thing. Okay, you cool because you smoke cools, but then I played sports, so that put that challenge before me. It wasn't a health challenge, but it was a health challenge because it was like I wanted to perform, very competitive, so I wanted to perform well. But I noticed that when I smoked cigarettes, my wind was gone, so I had to make a conscious decision to move away from that. So, but I'm trying to impact my mom's behavior, telling her, I need my cigarettes and my cup of coffee to start my day. She was addicted to Pall Malls, what I call them heart busters, Pall Malls and her cup of coffee, and couldn't get her to let it go until one day she had a growth on her tongue. She discovered a growth on her tongue, and it scared her. She went to the doctors, and the doctor told her that it might be cancerous. And when she heard that, and they said it probably came from her smoking the cigarettes, guess what happened? Them cigarettes, just like that. Oh, she talked about she couldn't stop, but when she was faced with that choice, and that's what my point is. Sometimes that's how God has to get our attention.
It is, and wait till we get into the subject of my scuba diving, because the pastor in you is going to really start shouting. I have such
Lord
an amazing revelation.
And I'm trying to slow walk us there because you've got so much to share.
Yes,
particularly not only with the music but also with this new venture, this new journey with bringing together Deep Sea. What is it? Deep Sea Vegan.
Deep Sea Vegan is the name of the brand.
Deep Sea Vegan. Yes. Yeah, and you did something because during the time when you came with Titus and told us about it, you had envisioned the next step that got you to this step, and that was you were doing a pop-up. You were getting ready to do your first pop-up.
You got a great memory.
Yeah, well, you did too. But that full gospel thing. But you were getting ready for your first pop-up, and I think it was going to be in Nashville, and then you were going to go to a couple other cities, right?
That's right. We did one in Titus's home city as well. And those pop-ups were so successful, it led to us being a resident pop-up at one of Nashville's largest food halls, which is called Hunter Station. We were there for 5 years. There was a line around the door every time we were there on the weekends. We then purchased a food truck 2 years ago.
Okay.
busy with the food truck, and now we're building our own food hall. And I'm like, man, look at God. Look at God.
But and it's good that we went back and we brought that into the equation, because a lot of times people just see a certain part of the journey.
That's right.
And they assume, oh, they went from there to there. They don't understand the steps. The steps are ordered. The steps that you had to go through. You had to go through the health challenge, and then you had to discover vegan. Then you had to discover, oh, I like this stuff. And, oh, there's an opportunity there. And let me now do this. Hey, well, why not do this pop-up thing? For those who don't understand the pop-up concept, explain that, because I didn't know anything about it until you brought it to my attention.
Yeah, well, a pop-up is kind of like a sound. You basically create a business, whatever it is. It could be food. It could be anything that you think of, right?
Right.
Selling, I don't know, a certain product that you may make or whatever. And so what you do with the pop-up is you literally set a date and a time, and you don't have to have a permanent location. You can be anywhere. So let's say like this week, we're going to pop up at the local park from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Next week, we're having a pop up at the downtown, commerce center or whatever.
So it's just popping up, moving around.
Just popping up. So you basically set a date.
How do you secure the use of another business's facility? Because that's the fascinating part.
That's where it gets a little tricky. So I'll tell you my story with our first pop up. So because I'm vegan, I would go to different restaurants that I had frequented as a customer, and I would ask the manager, say, hey, can I speak with you for a minute? You've probably seen me in here. I'm a regular customer. Oh, yeah, I remember your face. Okay, look, I'm starting my own vegan business, and I know you guys close at, let's say, 4 p.m. on Saturdays. Can I come in at 5 p.m. from 5 to 8, use your building to do my pop-up? And all of them looked at me and said, why would I do that? That's competition. Right. One guy, his name is Ben Sticks. When I came to him with that same request, he said, the fact that you would come here and ask me to use my restaurant to sell your food,
so a mitigated goal.
He said, it's so bold, I'm going to say yes.
God always has a ram in the bush.
Always has a ram in the bush. And so we did our first pop-up. And I'll tell you something, Lee, I had no idea what to do next. I had no plan, which is why it's
like, okay, can I get one? I got one. Now what do I do? What do I do?
And this is why it's so important, and I hope this really resonates with people. You cannot wait until everything is perfect to move, because you don't allow God the opportunity to show you who He is in the situation. If you wait for everything to be perfect and every sign to be clear,
it'll never happen.
You're not allowing God to show you what He can do, because you're relying on the eternal.
It also, excuse me for interrupting you, it also removes the faith element.
100%.
The faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I've got to invoke the presence of God through faith. Absolutely. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. In other words, get 100%. His attention. 100%. So how am I going to get His attention if I'm not trusting Him beyond what I can see?
That's right. And then the other part of what you said, which is important for me to say this as well, people only see the end result. They only see kind of where it is. Well, there was so much adversity in getting Deep Sea Vegan to where it is now, where it's going to be just shortly. I remember vividly from all the prep, hours and hours of prep, and buying the food and dealing with trying to get people to come help, employees. And I remember vividly one time I was going to one of our pop-ups. I was on the way. I was already so tired mentally, physically, and even financially just drained. Right. That I was about 2 blocks away and I had a flat tire. And as my tire went flat, I had not one, but two of my employees called me and said, I'm not going to make it in. So I'm already thinking now, okay, it's already kind of a little hustle getting it together with the 4 people that are there. Now 2 called in, I got a flat tire. Well, I'll just fast forward to make this quick. I was literally about a block from a tire store. They happened to be open. It was a Sunday morning. I was very surprised they were open. Got my tire fixed, literally cried, called one of my best friends, who you all know very well, Mitchell Jones from Commission, shared with him what was going on. He's like my brother that always has the right word. So I called him, and he just basically spoke a few words. I went on into the kitchen and literally just kind of, I was crying in frustration, wiped my tears away, and at that moment, I knew it was a pivotal moment where I could have threw the towel in and said, forget this.
That was your moment.
Would have never gotten to where we are now. Some great things are just on the cusp for us now. I would have never gotten there. I was literally so just done. I was just done. And
that was your defining moment. That was your defining moment.
And oftentimes it's that little moment that literally separates the good from the great, the do's from the don'ts, from allowing yourself to see God's potential for your vision and your life in its fullness, or allowing the enemy to win and stop it. And I chose.
There's an old saying. It's always darkest before the dawn.
Before the dawn, yes, sir.
Before the dawn. And that's just the dichotomy of nature, of life. God had put that principle in practice. That in order for us to turn that corner, we have to reach something just before we get to that corner that makes us prove how much we really want it.
That's right. And I honestly feel like, Lee, that it's incumbent upon us when we go through certain situations in life that we allow those lessons to be a blessing to others, because you never know who's going through the exact same thing and they just need a word. They need to hear something that resonates with them, something they can identify with.
Yeah.
And so I count it all joy, all the frustrations. I even had a health situation where I'd been prepping so much that my back went out of whack. I had a condition called bone marrow edema, and it was excruciating pain.
So you're like, where's all this stuff coming from? Why is all this happening?
Yeah. And so, of course, I'm way beyond that now and everything else. But again, I think it's important for us to share things, because there's people right now that are going to be listening to this that maybe are starting something or thinking about starting something, and they're already hesitant, or maybe they're already in it and they're going through something. And it just takes words like this to say, you know what? There's no way I'm going to throw the towel in. It's not just me.
It's a way of helping them refocus on what they're seeing.
That's right.
A lot of times, and what I've discovered in my call is that sometimes just a subtle shift in how you can get people to look at what they're going through can make a world of difference. God to bless me, but I'm not that naive to just think that blessings are going to happen by osmosis. God tried it that way once before. In the wilderness, he just blessed the people just to be blessing them, and they didn't appreciate what they got. So God does not do it that way no more. Now he requires that we sow into what we want. We sow into the principle. We sow into the principle, which shows that we trust what he's saying to be true. It's so sweet to trust in Jesus and to take him as. So I trust him enough that regardless of what the economic forecasts look like, regardless of who's in the White House, regardless of what they say on the news, I trust him enough because I'm sowing into the principles that he promised are going to produce a harvest in my life, that regardless of what's happening in the world, because I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world, what's going to happen to them ain't going to happen to me. Somebody say it ain't going to happen to me. Ain't gonna happen to me because I understand the part that I play in the process. The other part of the revelation you shared with me when you came to the station with Titus was not only about the vegan vision, but you also shared with me that you had just undertaken a new hobby, and that was deep sea diving. And as a result of that, something clicked. I said, "Man, you're going to be a guest." You were there representing with your artists,
and you brought me on stage talking about
becoming a guest.
I remember that.
Yeah, I said, "Man, you're going on camera. You're going to be a guest." And you did the interview with us, and that was one of my most viewed interviews because I arrested a lot of my stuff again on my YouTube. As a matter of fact, I think that may still be on my YouTube channel, so we'll follow it up with this one. But tell us about how you becoming a deep sea diver and then eventually trainer. How did that all come about?
Yeah, well, so I did my very first what's called Discover Scuba, which is trying scuba diving in 2011.
Why? Why?
So that's a good question. I've always been so fascinated with the ocean. Like, I mean, it's kind of weird because Black people usually don't, but I've always been fascinated with the ocean. I mean, like completely fascinated. I don't know why, but I've always been like, I remember watching TV shows when I was a little boy and just seeing like clips of movies where maybe James Bond would be in a plane crash and the plane crash would go in the water and he'd have a scuba tank and he'd be fighting. And I thought, that looks so cool. That looks so amazing. And so just things like that. I don't know. And so I remember, when you go on vacation, you see these signs that say, try scuba diving or whatever. And so one day I was like, you know what? Let me just try it. And I actually have a book. And the book is called The 75-25 Rule. And basically, it's on Amazon. And basically it talks about the world is 75% water and 25% land.
That's correct. No
matter how far you go in the world, you can say, I'm going to take a 20-hour flight to Australia or a 20-hour flight to Africa. Doesn't matter. You're still going to touch down on another part of that 25% of what's available. Until you go into the other 75%, which is the ocean, you will never encompass the wholeness of what the world has to offer. And if we think about that in our thinking, if we only think that there's a certain amount of opportunities that are accessible to us, which represent 25%, how much are we cheating ourselves of the greater dimension and possibilities of what we can achieve?
And now you see that? If you change the way you look at things, so you changed the way you looked at that 75-25 dynamic and you realize the aha moment. I call it an aha moment.
Aha moment.
Like, wait a minute.
Yes.
I'm only experiencing one quarter of what there is out there.
One quarter. And so when you look at this, and so this ties into the story of how I got into scuba diving because the book talked about all of this, but I did this Discover Scuba class and I was in Belize on vacation. And I remember that I went through a little course, like a 1-hour curriculum, watched a video, had a man tell me what to do, what not to do this, clear the water out of your mask, take your regulator out, put it back in while you're underwater. And everything he was saying just didn't make sense. And it brought me to this revelation, Pastor, that it says, in my mind, that the definition of faith, what seems to be impossible, actually is possible. The operative word is seems. What seems to be impossible actually is possible. And so I was like, it seems impossible that this man, this teacher, is telling me these things that seem impossible, but it actually is possible because people do it. And so I went through this little class, I watched the video, I got on the boat, and then got to the moment of truth where now I got to get off the boat and see if I can apply what he informed me would work.
Did you consider yourself a good swimmer at the time?
Very. I've always been a very good swimmer. Always. Don't know how that happened either because I never took swimming lessons, but we'll address that later. I don't know. But got off the boat and got down the water, and everything that this man told me and showed me in the videos I watched, it actually worked. And I said to myself, this revelation came to me that if we as people can believe what a man of flesh and blood tells us and read a curriculum about scuba diving or what to do, what not to do, and what works, what doesn't work, a curriculum, and believe to the point that we put ourselves in harm's way, per se, by going into an environment that we were not meant to exist in, which is below the ocean. If I can believe that curriculum written by a man, and the words of an instructor who's a man, how is it, Pastor Lee, that we can't believe the most tried and tested curriculum known to mankind?
And you preach it.
God.
You mess around, gonna get me. I'm gonna have to get an organ in here in a minute.
So when I came to this revelation, I understood more than ever what faith really was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'm literally putting my faith in this man.
That's correct. Once you got that order.
But yet, sometimes it's hard for us to put our faith in the Word of God, written by God.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
So what I'm hearing is the revelation of the experience was that it started resonating in the Word, your knowledge of the Word, and it's like, wow.
It did.
The Word, just talking about this very thing that I'm doing, not go diving, but trusting and believing. Yeah.
And here's what's really funny. Here's what's really funny, Patrick. I got to share this little story. I get in the water for the very first time with scuba gear. We're down about 25 feet, not very deep at all. And a school of fish, tropical fish, hundreds of them, were coming towards me. Little, small, beautiful, colorful tropical fish. But there's hundreds of them.
Hundreds?
Tropical fish, hundreds of them. We're in the ocean. But they're small, they're beautiful, colorful. But it was just so many, I became overwhelmed. And
they weren't afraid of you?
They come and they just go around you. They just literally come and go around you.
It's like, I don't know who he is, what kind of fish he is, but we're going to just keep on.
They go around you. But I was so overwhelmed by just the massive number of fish. I told the instructor, I need to come back up. Got in the boat. He said, what's wrong? I said, all those fish. He said, we're in the ocean. They're just little tropical fish. Like, they're not going to harm you. And when he said that, a calm came over me. I go back in the ocean, literally 30 seconds later. And the first thing I see when I go back down
is the
3 sharks.
Wait a minute. We had that conversation about the shark.
And you know what? All of a sudden, I had no fear. I went from being petrified over a bunch of tropical fish, coming up to the boat, getting a word from the instructor, going back down and seeing 3 nurse sharks and being completely at ease.
Wow. Now explain to folk what you shared with me about sharks. You said, sharks don't come messing around with folk.
Yeah, so sharks, contrary to popular belief and contrary to Hollywood with Jaws and other movies, sharks do not have an appetite for humans. Meaning that, yes, people do get bitten by sharks, and we call that in the dive world a curiosity bite. And usually when that happens, it's because people are doing the wrong thing in the water. And so think of it like this. If you're and most bites happen at the surface more so than when you're at depth.
Right.
So if you're on the surface, and you're especially like on a surfboard, which is flat and smooth and shiny, and you're flapping your arms trying to get out into the water, a shark looks up, he sees a smooth, shiny bottom, which looks like the belly of a turtle or a seal or things that are on his menu. And he comes up and he grabs the leg or arm that's hanging over the surfboard, and he's like, oh, this is not what I want to eat, and let's go. He doesn't continue eating, but now
he's already doing the damage from his teeth.
But you're bitten.
Yeah.
So that's one situation, which we call a curiosity bite. The other is that people will antagonize marine life. And I tell people all the time, if you antagonize a little puppy, a little kitten, a turtle, a squirrel, it's going to fight back. And so if you do not mess with the shark, I promise you, he's not going to mess with you. And I go shark diving all the time. So I'm not just saying things that I read or
this is what you've experienced.
I literally go on shark dives. I've been diving with great hammerheads, which are 18 feet long, 1,000 pounds. I've been diving with tiger sharks, bull sharks.
So you deliberately go where they are.
Literally, it's called a shark dive. You go and you specifically go where sharks are. I have video which you can play on the interview where I'll send you. And I say that because I want to get some context to people that I'm not just saying things that I read about. This is what I do all the time. And now I teach scuba diving. I'm a dive master.
Right.
So, which is, in fact, last weekend I was in South Florida teaching a group of students that came in from different places that signed up.
Let's fill the gap here. Now, you went from scuba diver to now being certified to become a dive master.
And there's several steps and several dives. So basically, you first do your discover scuba, then you do open water certification, then you do nitrox, which is a class that teaches you how to breathe the different kind of gases to go deeper. Because right now we're breathing what's called atmospheric air, which is basically 29% oxygen and 71% nitrogen. That's what we're breathing right now. And that's what's in a normal tank. Okay. But if you breathe a higher percentage of oxygen, which is called enriched air, then you have less nitrogen in your body, which means you can stay down longer. So now I'm certified and understand how to analyze my tanks to breathe a higher percentage of oxygen and less nitrogen. Because the idea is that you want less nitrogen in your body. So when you're scuba diving, every 33 feet of water is called an atmospheric pressure. And so there is pressure that will squeeze every time the deeper you go. So when you're on the surface, there's one atmospheric pressure, which we're all subject to now. Right. We're all living at one atmospheric pressure.
But that pressure changes as you go down.
It gets stronger. 14.7 pounds per square inch on everything. You, the tank. So as it compresses, it squeezes, which is why you have.
That's how you feel. That's the react. That's what you feel.
But you have to equalize the pressure by pinching your nose and blowing. Then you don't feel the pressure anymore. And so, but as you go down, you're subjected to atmospheric pressure, right? And so when you're in the ocean, you're gonna feel the pressure slightly because you equalize to release that pressure. As you come back up, that pressure releases. So this is going down, this is going up. It releases. As you come back up to the surface, the pressure releases. Because the closer you get to the surface, there's less pressure, right?
So this thing that I used to watch Jacques Cousteau and a couple other shows, and they always talked about coming up too fast, you get the bends. Is that what that is?
That's called decompression sickness. And so that goes back to what
That's what that is?
Decompression sickness is the bends. It goes back to what I was saying in reference to, so the pressure has to do with the nitrogen in your body. So when I mentioned that we're breathing atmospheric air right now, which means we're breathing 71% nitrogen and 21% oxygen right now, all of us, right? So as you go down, because you're getting squeezed, well, those bubbles, the nitrogen that you're breathing in gets compressed and makes little bubbles, right, in your blood. So what happens is, if you're breathing a higher percentage, like I breathe maybe sometimes 32% and then 68 nitrogen, which means there's less nitrogen in my body, which means it's going to be safer. So, but then as you're coming up from a dive, when you get to 15 feet, and your computer will tell you, you stop for 3 minutes. It's called a safety stop. 3 minutes, you stop in the middle of the water and allow that nitrogen, that residual nitrogen, to release from your body. And then you slowly finish the last 15 feet, slowly. And then you're completely dissolved. You still have some in your body, but you're safe to dissolve from that point forward.
Wow!
Right? And so
I just learned something, man. I feel like I'm a deep sea expert now. But
well, you got to go to my classes. But the other thing I want to share in my ministry portion of scuba diving is the aspect of freedom. So when it comes to freedom, Pastor Lee, one of the things in scuba diving that you have to understand is that the only way to descend, especially in saltwater is very dense, is to add lead weight to your scuba gear. It's called a buoyancy compensator device, a BC. It's like a vest.
That's the only way you can get down. Go down.
Because salt water is too dense. It's going to keep you on top of the water. You have to literally add, like I usually will wear 16 to 20 pounds of weight, of lead weight, literally lead weight in my pockets, in my dive pockets.
So when you try to come back up, you've got to take those weights off?
No. I'm glad you said that, because this is my point, is that people will always say, well, why would you want to put weight on you? I'm like, well, when you're scuba diving, there's 3 types of buoyancy. There's positive buoyancy when you're on the surface and you can't go down. There's negative buoyancy when you go straight down. And there's neutral buoyancy when you're right in the middle, like you're flying like Superman. The only way to achieve neutral buoyancy, which when you see scuba divers in the middle of the ocean, is to have weight. The weight is not the problem. The problem is not knowing how to compensate the weight. So once you learn how to compensate the weight by using your lungs and your device, that's the only way that you can reach neutral buoyancy, which is basically like freedom. You're in the middle.
So
Now listen to this. Listen to this. In life, Pastor, we look at the weights of unforgiveness. We look at the weights of disappointment, the weights of hurt. We look at all these things and we just think it's bad. It's not the weight. You have to learn how to compensate the weight to find freedom. Now listen, now as a dive master, I carry a bunch of extra weight because sometimes my new students, they don't have enough weight, or sometimes they have too much, I got to take it from them. But now I'm so equipped, I can take on extra weight. And I know, okay, you're a little too heavy, you're going down a little bit. I reach the pocket, I'm gonna take 2 pounds out of your pocket. I can handle it because I'm so equipped to understand how to make that weight work for my good, which is why when you're prayed up, you're a dive master. You can take on extra weight. You can give a little weight here and there because you can handle it because you know how to reach that level of freedom.
You know that to preach, right? You know that to preach.
Look, I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, neutral and that neutral weight. But you also neutral
buoyancy.
Buoyancy. I'm sorry, neutral buoyancy. You see, I had it at first, but I didn't get it in time, so I forgot it. But is that the premise behind why astronauts train in the water?
That is 100% correct. The ocean is
connecting those dots. I get it. Neutral buoyancy.
The ocean is the closest atmosphere to outer space. Now, it's funny you said that to preach because I actually did this message 2 years ago in Memphis, Tennessee, at a church. My friend, Pastor Kenneth Whalum, he's brother of saxophonist Kirk Whalum. And I'll tell you a funny story about this. I met Pastor Whalum about 3 years ago through another iHeart comrade of yours, Tracy Bethay. She goes to his church. And so he's a big fan of a TV show called The Chosen, which we were marketing. It's a show about the Bible. And so Tracy said, well, my friends are marketing The Chosen, and he wanted to come to the red carpet. So we were able to get him in. So, and he's like, it's his favorite show. So by the fact that I got him in, I became his new best friend. That's his favorite show. Right. So we linked up, started following each other on social media. And about 6 months later, he said, Brother Duffy, I've been following you. And there's something about you. The Lord told me to invite you to my church to speak to my congregation. Lee, I'm not a preacher. I've never spoken to church before.
But you got a story to tell, as our audience is seeing right now.
I told him, thank you, but it's not for me. A year passed, a whole year, 12 months. He called me again. Hey, Duffy, this is Pastor Whalum. The Lord told me you have a word for my church. I'm calling you back. It's been a year. And I had been working on this whole concept that I'm telling you now about faith and freedom.
Right.
And I said, wow, my God, you have a sense of humor. And so I said, Pastor, I will accept. And I said it without even thinking, because I knew it had to be God. And so I told him, I said, this may sound weird, but my message is going to be about scuba diving and how it directly ties in to faith.
That's where you are.
Said, God told me to ask to bring you. I'm not going to question what your message is.
Right.
Lee, so my twin brother Clyde, he started diving too. He's not as into as I am, but he dives well. We went to Memphis. I took my scuba gear, my tanks, my fins, my mask on a big table in the pulpit. Set it up. When people came in that Sunday morning, you can only imagine the looks on their faces. Here I am in the pulpit with scuba gear, fins, tanks, BCD, mask, everything. Pastor Whalum comes up and says, this is the brother that's been marketing all the movies. Well, he's got a message for us today. Y'all know him from the movies, and he didn't know what the message was about. He just said, God told me. And we have it on YouTube. When I tell you this message, and I just touched on a little bit with what I said, had the entire church on their feet, crying, shouting, because it gets deep. I just gave you a little kind of a sample of what it is, but it shows me that God used my connection with the ocean to bring forth the enormity of who he is. And I'm like, he uses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. Who would think that scuba diving has anything to do with God's glory and His Word?
Who would think there was talking about talking about fig trees would change lives? Who would think talking about farmers sowing seeds would change lives? The connection. The connection is what releases the revelation. The presenter just has to be able to make the connection.
And so now we're going to be working on taking this ministry of scuba diving called Faith and Freedom around to other churches. And
I think that's going to be great.
Because it's such a unique and fresh way to explain God's glory on faith and freedom.
So the next seed that I'm going to throw at you before we close out is, don't forget the book. Don't forget the book.
Okay.
Don't forget the book. Okay. Don't forget the book.
Okay.
Because the book has a relevant place in the presentation. Don't forget the book. Okay.
Yes.
You got an interesting story, man, and there's so much. I mean, we've covered quite a bit, and there's even more. But I first off, I wanted you to be able to share with the audience, but then I also want them to be able to connect with you. How can they connect with you?
So they can find me on social media. On my Instagram page, it's Kendall, Kendall, Duffy, Duffie, the number 9. So at Kendall Duffy 9. They can also find me at Deep Sea Vegan all together on Instagram and Facebook. DeepSeaVegan all together. Deep Sea Vegan. I'm going to be doing more classes. In fact, I'm working on my next date for Discovery Scuba Diving classes now in South Florida. And basically, what it looks like is I bring people in. We use a hotel pool to do what's called pool sessions training. We do the pool session with all the gear on in the swimming pool. Once they're comfortable, the next morning we go into the ocean, a very shallow part of the ocean. I guide them out in the ocean, and people have testimonials from this last trip where people were just saying things that I knew I was going to hear about how it just completely shifted so much of how they think about life. And it just brings me so much joy, Pastor Lee, to be able to do this and to introduce people.
Man, you need to bring footage back when you go. To bring the footage back so we can bring it back and share more. I will. I'm sure people would. I mean, this is a whole 75% of the world that they haven't seen.
Yeah. And I have something that I sent you earlier that we'll talk about offline that has to do with this whole thing where I'm looking to do these 60-second moments. 60 seconds where it's just a powerful clip that ties in the ocean and inspiration. And you're going to see what I'm saying.
That's what I'm talking about. That right there. That right there.
It's 1 minute clips, one minute bites.
1 minute.
So what happens is you get education because so many of us, brown and black people, have no clue about why the ocean is so important. So I felt like if I can show the educational importance and significance, and then the inspirational tie-in, that's a gold mine, brother.
They can see it, and they can hear it, and they can relate to who they're seeing it and hearing it from because they're saying,
exactly,
wow, he looks like me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Kendall, we appreciate you, man. And man, I'm just excited for you. And you it's amazing from getting a disturbing report, you are now in a place that you didn't even think about.
I didn't.
Had no vision of this is what I want to do. But the steps were ordered, and God ordered them, and you walked in them, and now you're stepping into a whole new reality, a whole new dimension of possibilities. And what I love about this, before I close out, and your story, is this. One of the things I share in this season of my life with coaching is that whatever it is that you aspire to do in this season of your life, the only thing that's going to ensure success is, of course, the hard work and sacrifice. But the most important ingredient a lot of people miss is got to make a difference in the lives of others.
Amen. I love that.
And I heard that. And so I know that you're on your way to a successful realization of your venture because you did not negate the importance of making sure that it includes the responsibility to make a difference in somebody else's life when you do it.
Yes, sir. And one thing that my sister Michelle leans on, this is her kind of mantra, is that she says, think like this: what's the best that can happen? What's the best case scenario? Because so many times, what do we say? Well, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
You're allowing a spirit of defeat when you say the word worst.
Right.
So she says, what's the best thing that can happen?
Right.
And I live by that now.
And that's a good thing, because that's where your focus and your energies will be. Instead of manifesting the worst, you'll manifest the best. Man, we're out of here. Man, we got to get ready to go. We had a wonderful time with you, Kendall.
Yes,
appreciate you, man. Much love. And you know, when you bring that deep sea vegan to Baltimore, pop up or whatever,
it's coming.
Just make sure that you let a brother know, because I will be there on the line. Appreciate you. Any parting thoughts you want to just share with everybody before we go?
Look, I'm going to say it again. What's the best that can happen? Always live your life with that mantra, and always leave people better than you found them.